Hello, family of the Beyond Fortune channel. Take a deep breath with me. Sometimes, God crosses paths we would never dare to choose. Maybe you're tired, but you still believe in love. Maybe you carry bills, losses, and a heavy silence. Today, I ask just this: stay with me until the end. Because a car crash is about to change two destinies. And maybe it will light up yours too. Manhattan gleamed like a wet chessboard of lights. Towers scratched the sky, windows glowing like promises. On the 60th floor, a man closed yet another deal. Nathan Hale, magnate of steel and concrete. Dark suit, commanding posture, restless eyes. The city called him a genius. He called himself empty. And emptiness always charges interest. Nathan had learned early not to need anyone. He lost his mother in the cold hallway of a public hospital. His ex-fiancée traded him for headlines and quick perks. Since then, wealth had become a trench, not a celebration. Everything about him was precision and absolute control. No love, no risks, no faith. Only results, deadlines, and locked doors. In the garage, the driver offered the usual wheel. "Tonight, I'll drive," Nathan said, asking for silence. He needed to steer his own noise into nothingness. Rain drizzled down, wipers keeping pace with his fatigue. The Bluetooth beeped. Investors wanted more guarantees. He shut it off. For once, he chose to listen to the city. And the city had plans. Across town, a school breathed courage. Worn desks, walls lined with handwritten poems. Clara Hayes, literature teacher, guarded her books. Hair tied back, stubborn smile, eyes that welcomed. She taught Dickens with weak coffee and fierce hope. She paid rent, her father's medicine, and night classes. And she never asked for discounts on her dignity. Clara owned an old car and a new heart. She had learned to fix her rearview mirror and her pain. Her glove compartment held student notes and overdue bills. Even so, she kept going, one paragraph at a time. That late night, she whispered her prayer again. "Lord, guard my path, guard my father." And she drove into the wet avenue. The light blinked yellow on 47th Street. Nathan slowed, but the intersection seemed empty. The rain thickened, erasing outlines and certainties. A bus blocked his vision for half a second. When it passed, a small headlight crossed the lane. Brakes, water, a dry crack against the bumper. And the world held its breath. The airbags didn't deploy. It was a low-speed collision. Still, both hands trembled on both wheels. Clara pulled over and inhaled, steady. She stepped out into the rain, checking for injuries. Nathan was already standing, umbrella open, face closed. "I'll handle it. Send the bill to my office." And the first spark lit. "It's not about sending bills, sir," Clara replied. "It's about responsibility. You crossed the line." Nathan measured her stance, not her plain clothes. He stretched out a metal card, gleaming with wealth. "My team will take care of it. You won't waste time." Clara didn't touch the card, not even a millimeter. "Time is what I respect the most." A young man filmed the scene with a curious phone. "Look, it's Hale, the guy who owns the Blue Towers." The rain became the audience, the street, an improvised stage. Nathan noticed the camera and adjusted his tone. "Let's avoid a scene. I can compensate you now." Clara crossed her arms, voice calm but firm. "I don't sell my reason for haste." He felt the old irritation rising inside. But something in her clarity disarmed him. "Then what do you want?" he asked sharp. "For you to own the mistake and do the right thing. Insurance, reports, paperwork? It'll take time." "Time is better than injustice," Clara said, steady. And the boy's phone kept recording. The patrol car arrived quietly, lights reflecting off the asphalt. Two officers took notes. Listened, checked the marks. No injuries, no shouting, no cheap drama. Both cooperative, the brunette officer noted. Nathan offered her a ride. She refused. "I've got students early, and a father to care for." The word father pierced his chest, and Nathan's driver showed up with umbrellas. "We can take you wherever you need, miss." Clara smiled but declined. "Thank you, I'll manage." Nathan studied her firmness as if decoding a riddle. "Where do you work?" slipped out before he could stop it. "Jefferson High, Riverside." He stored the name like ammunition. The rain eased, but the news stormed. A local blog headline popped up within minutes. "Tycoon versus teacher, crash on 47th." Comments spread like wildfire, knowing nothing. "Reckless rich guy, She wants fame. Everyone wants something. Clara exhaled, focusing only on what mattered. Nathan checked his watch, but stayed. I'll pay for the repair through insurance, officially. As it should be, Clara answered, without arrogance. And I'd like to offer another kind of repair, he tried. The officers exchanged curious glances. My school needs books, she said quickly. A reading tournament. No photos. Just books. Nathan raised a brow, surprised at her aim. No press, no headlines with my name, he tested. No spotlight, Clara confirmed, washing the street with truth. The officer jotted notes. Half smiling. I like this deal. Nathan ran invisible calculations, as always. This didn't buy image, it bought meaning. Fine, I'll fund it. But I want to be there. Clara answered with a half smile. Be there reading. They exchanged contacts in the officer's notebook. No metal cards, just legible ink. Clara, Hayes, Nathan Hale. 2 rain-stained signatures. The driver opened the trunk, offering a coat. She refused again, guarding her autonomy. See you at Jefferson High, Mr. Hale. See you, he repeated, an unplanned promise that I in the car, silence filled with her name. Clara Hayes. Teacher. Sick father. Books. Nathan stared at his reflection. In the dark glass, he saw a man who could raise towers, but not people, and wondered when that had become enough. In Riverside, Clara whispered her prayer at the wheel. Thank you for deliverance. And for the next step. The night stretched both long and short. Comments exploded, rumors born without owners. Clara opened her old laptop and graded essays. Nathan reviewed contracts, but read nothing. 2 insomniacs on different maps of the same city, both thinking of the word they hadn't said, courage. And the meeting that wasn't over yet.by dawn, Jefferson High lit up. A new email waited in Clara's inbox. Subject, books, not spotlights. Inhale. 3 lines, no apologies, only commitment. On the news ticker, a headline scrolled. Tycoon and teacher, deal? Clara closed the screen, grabbed the chalk, and smiled at her class. The real collision of worlds was just about to begin. The next morning, Clara walked through the gates of Jefferson High with steady steps. The hallways smelled of chalk, reheated coffee, and dreams crammed into backpacks. Students greeted her with shy smiles. Good morning, Miss Hayes. She returned each look with tenderness, even while hiding the weight of the night. The headlines had already spread, but inside, the subject was different. Essays to grade, a father to care for, a life to keep moving, and a certain magnate who, against all logic, wouldn't leave her mind. Meanwhile, on the 60th floor of Hale Enterprises, the tension was different. Board members gathered around the oval table, projecting graphs and numbers. Nathan listened, but his thoughts drifted to a neighborhood school. Books, not spotlights. He repeated the phrase Clara had engraved in him. A simple request, yet full of meaning and challenge. He had never funded anything without earning headlines in return. Perhaps this would be the first time he did something simply right. George, his right-hand man, noticed the unusual distraction. Mr. Hale, the shareholders expect a public statement about the accident. Nathan raised his eyes, firm. Nothing will be said. It was just a mishap. But, sir, blogs are already spinning narratives. Silence can be harmful. Nathan closed the folder in front of him, ending the discussion. Let them talk. I have another commitment today. And deep inside, he knew Riverside was his real destination. During her break, Clara was setting up an improvised bulletin board. Brown paper torn, colorful letters, and notes from students. At the top, she wrote, Reading Championship, Jefferson. Hi. The kids gathered around her with curiosity and excitement. Will there be prizes, Miss Hayes? Who's paying for the books? She smiled, holding back her anxiety. An anonymous benefactor. Though in her heart, she already knew exactly who it was. Nathan's black car parked discreetly in front of the school. He stepped out without an entourage, photographers, or excessive guards. His impeccable suit clashed with the peeling walls and worn floors. Some children stared as if seeing a TV character in real life. When Clara saw him at the door, she kept her composure but breathed deep. Didn't expect to see you so soon, she said, adjusting the books in her arms. I promised I'd be here. I tend to keep promises, he replied. The visit didn't go unnoticed. Teachers whispered in the hallways. That's him, the millionaire from the crash. Students snapped secret photos, already planning TikToks. Clara kept calm, guiding him toward the school's tiny library. Shelves held more dust than pages, books missing covers and endings. Nathan walked through the narrow aisles, eyes scanning. The worn titles. "So this is where the magic happens?" he murmured, almost to himself. Clara caught the remark, answering with her usual frankness. "The magic happens when they believe they're worth more than life tells them." Nathan looked at her, absorbing the strength behind her simplicity. She didn't need figures. She needed someone to see without arrogance. For a moment, his gaze softened, almost imperceptibly. But then the mask returned. "We'll prepare a list of needs." Clara nodded, but tucked away that rare glimpse in memory as they left the library. An unexpected scene awaited them. "Hey," tall student in a torn uniform bumped into Nathan on purpose. "Look at the rich savior of the world," he mocked, drawing laughs. Clara stepped in firmly. "Daniel, show respect." "Now." The boy hesitated, staring at Nathan with open defiance. Surprisingly, Nathan didn't snap back or raise his voice. He only said, dryly, "The respect you refuse someday, you'll need." Clara noticed the contrast. Nathan could crush companies with contracts. But in front of a rebellious teenager, he chose steady silence. Slowly, Daniel backed away, uneasy under the weight of his gaze. "You handled that well," Clara said, genuinely surprised. Nathan took a deep breath, as if surprised by himself too. "Some contracts aren't signed with a pen," he replied, almost poetic. And for the first time, Clara laughed freely. In front of him, outside, the drizzle returned, echoing the night before. Nathan held out the umbrella, but Clara refused to share. "I'm used to getting wet, Mr. Hale." He followed her, footsteps steady on the wet asphalt. "Maybe you don't always have to be," he murmured softly. She glanced sideways, intrigued by the hidden vulnerability. And in the silence of that modest street, an unlikely bond was born. The next day, local newspapers began to spread the story. "Magnate visits public school," blared the front page. Nathan closed the paper with disgust, tossing it aside. It was exactly what he had tried to avoid, unnecessary exposure. Clara also saw the news on the old phone she carried. For a moment, she feared he might give up on the project. But deep down, she knew he wasn't the kind of man to retreat. That afternoon, Clara received an unexpected call. It was Nathan's secretary, voice polished yet firm. "Mr. Hale asked me to meet with you to organize the donations." Clara inhaled deeply, torn between enthusiasm and caution. "I don't want anything that looks like charity for cameras," she warned. The woman smiled through the line. He was clear about that too. For the first time, Clara felt Nathan was truly listening. That evening, Clara walked home under Riverside's dim lights. The streets were quiet, but full of memories for her. Every corner held battles, losses, and small victories. Arriving home, she found her father sitting on the porch, distant. "That rich man's really going to help your school, honey?" he asked. Clara held his hand, smiling softly. "He will, Dad. But not because of the money. Because he needs it as much as we do." Across town, Nathan dined alone in his penthouse. The silence was deafening, broken only by the clink of his glass. For the first time in years, he missed a voice other than his own. Clara's presence filled spaces that luxury could never touch. The way she spoke to students, firm yet tender. The fearless way she looked at him, unafraid of who he was. Nathan, though he wouldn't admit it, was already craving the next meeting. The next morning, Clara arrived at school earlier than usual. She wanted to get a head start on the reading tournament preparations. But to her surprise, boxes were already stacked at the library entrance. Brand new books, colorful, smelling of fresh ink. On top, a handwritten note. "For new beginnings." Clara touched the paper carefully, recognizing his handwriting. Her heart raced, though she tried to rationalize it as simple gratitude. The students cheered when they saw the books. They flipped through pages like discovering hidden treasure. "Miss Hayes, can we take them home? Can we start today?" Clara laughed, emotional, watching joy fill the room. And in the middle of the excitement, a tall figure appeared at the door. Nathan stood silently, as if he too was moved by the scene. Clara looked up, and for a moment, they shared pride that he walked in slowly, avoiding attention. "Looks like the books found good owners," he said quietly. Clara smiled. more than owners. They found futures. Nathan nodded, unable to hide the light in his eyes. He wasn't used to feeling part of something real. This was different from deals and meetings. It was life pulsing around him, and it disarmed him more than any contract could. But in the hallway, whispers grew. She's taking advantage of him. That man doesn't come here for free. Clara heard the sharp words, cutting like blades. She took a deep breath, hiding the sting from her students. Nathan heard the whispers too, but stayed quiet. He had learned to deal with criticism, but he knew she hadn't. And silently, he vowed she wouldn't face it alone. That night, while arranging the books, Clara found another envelope. Inside, an invitation to a charity gala downtown. Signed, simply, N.H. Clara hesitated, feeling the weight of a step that was more than formal. It was a doorway into his world, full of lights and judgment. Yet part of her burned with curiosity to accept. Maybe it was time to face what she feared most. Belonging to in his glass office, Nathan stared at the rainlit city. The reflection showed a strong man, full of invisible cracks. He thought of Clara, of the way she defended her principles, the way she challenged him without fear, a rare thing in his world. He held a glass of wine, but what he wanted was courage. If she comes to the event, maybe it'll be the beginning, he whispered. And that night, a lonely millionaire dared to dream of change. The downtown event hall sparkled under crystal chandeliers. Men in flawless suits and women in luxurious gowns drifted across the room. The sound of classical piano created an air of sophistication. Clara discreetly adjusted the simple dress she had chosen. She didn't feel like she belonged in that world, but she had accepted the invitation. Her eyes searched for Nathan among the crowd, both anxious and cautious. And there he was, poised, surrounded by investors, yet watching. The moment Clara entered, Nathan's expression shifted. A rare smile, discreet but real, curved his lips. He broke away from his companions and walked toward her. "You came," he said softly, as if it were a secret. Clara lifted her chin, determined not to show insecurity. "I don't usually turn down invitations, even risky ones." Nathan let out a short laugh, almost relieved. The gaze of the elite fell on Clara like invisible blades. Many whispered, judging her presence among them. She felt the weight of their silent criticism and squared her shoulders. Nathan noticed her discomfort and offered her his arm. "Let them think what they want. Only what you know about yourself matters." Clara hesitated, then accepted, surprising even herself. Together, they crossed the hall as if nothing else mattered. During dinner, investors debated numbers and projections. Clara, unfamiliar with the jargon, chose to remain quiet. But when one of the men mocked her with irony, she replied, "At my school, we don't speak in millions, we speak in futures." The table fell silent, shocked by her audacity. Nathan, however, hid a smile of pride. This woman bowed to no one, not even the elite. Later, on the terrace under the moonlight, Clara exhaled with relief. Away from the formalities, she could finally be herself. Nathan approached, carrying 2 glasses of champagne. "You managed to silence men no one dares to confront." Clara laughed. "And you? Weren't you embarrassed?" "On the contrary, it's rare to hear someone say what they really think." His eyes revealed genuine admiration, difficult to hide. Clara looked away, unsettled by the intensity between them. "I don't belong in this world, Nathan," she confessed honestly. "Maybe not, but that's exactly why you're different." He leaned closer, voice low, almost a whisper. "You see what we forget. You remind us of what truly matters." For an instant, silence between them was charged with something new. An invisible thread of attraction neither dared to cut. The sound of footsteps broke the moment. An elegant woman with cold eyes appeared beside them. "Nathan Hale, always full of surprises," she said acidly. Clara recognized her name from the media, Victoria Langdon, a powerful businesswoman and Nathan's former partner. "And who's this?" she asked, looking Clara up and down. Clara held her ground, refusing to lower her gaze. Nathan answered before Clara could speak. "Someone who doesn't need your approval, Victoria." The tension thickened, and Clara felt like an unwilling target. But she also caught something in Nathan's eyes: protection. Victoria laughed, shaking her head in disdain. "Careful, Nathan. Company like this could ruin your image." And she left, leaving behind the bitter scent of threat. Clara sighed deeply, trying to steady her nerves. If she's right, maybe I should go. Nathan grasped her hand firmly, startling her. No, don't run just because it rattles them. You're stronger than that. She stayed silent, absorbing his words. She sensed his firmness, but also something more than pride. There was genuine care hidden in his voice. As the party carried on, Clara stepped away for a while. She needed air, space to process everything. In the garden lit with lanterns, she found a moment's peace, until she heard footsteps behind her again. Nathan stood there, but with a different look in his eyes. I need to tell you something, Clara, he began, hesitant. And in that instant, she knew her life was about to change. Clara felt her heartbeat quicken at his grave tone. You don't have to say anything you don't want to, she cautioned. He drew in a breath, weighing every word. Since I met you, something in me has changed. You throw me off balance. Clara tried to laugh, but her voice faltered. Maybe that's not good for someone so controlled like you. Nathan stepped closer, eyes locked on hers. I'm not used to losing control, Clara. But with you, he cut himself off, as if battling his own confession. Clara felt a mix of fear and attraction that disarmed her. She never imagined she could shake a man so powerful. And yet, she feared the weight of standing in that place. I'm not who you think I am, she murmured. Then let me find out who you really are, he replied. An intense silence wrapped around them, as if the world had stopped. The garden lights reflected in Nathan's eyes, brimming with sincerity. Clara swallowed hard, trying to resist his pull. She knew that if she leaned any closer, there'd be no turning back. I can't lose myself in this, she thought silently. But her breath already betrayed her inner storm, and Nathan seemed to sense every hesitation as a promise. Suddenly, Clara's phone rang sharply, pulling her back. She stepped away, quickly, answering without even checking the number. On the other end, her best friend's panicked voice trembled. Clara, you need to come home now. It's urgent. Fear shot through her veins, and she turned to Nathan. I'm sorry, I have to go. He tried to stop her, but her determination was unshakable. In the car ride home, Clara could barely breathe. Her friend's words replayed like a warning. In her mind, everything she had felt with Nathan seemed distant beside her worry. Yet part of her still burned from what had happened. His revelations echoed like dangerous music in her memory. Why does he affect me this much? She whispered. And even in her anxiety, she felt the weight of an unseen bond. Back at the hall, Nathan seemed incapable of focusing. Investors spoke, but he heard none of it. His mind was stuck on the moment cut short in the garden. Clara had fled his arms, but not his heart. He knew something in her pulled him more than it should, and for the first time in years, he felt fear. Fear of losing what had barely begun. While Clara rushed to face her urgency, Nathan made plans. He needed answers, needed to know her beyond appearances. There was something about her that completely disarmed him, and he wasn't about to let it slip away. Whatever secret she held, he would uncover it. But part of him already knew it wouldn't matter. He was willing to risk more than he had ever imagined. Clara arrived home breathless, finding her friend at the door. Thank God you came quickly, she said, tears in her eyes. Inside the small living room, something awaited Clara. An envelope, left mysteriously under the door. With trembling hands, she opened it and found photographs. Images of Nathan with Victoria, smiling at an old dinner. The sight sent a cold weight deep into her stomach. It can't be, Clara murmured, heart shattering. Her friend tried to calm her, but the photos spoke loudly. It was clear Nathan and Victoria had a past together. And now, more than ever, Clara doubted everything. His tender words in the garden seemed to lose their strength. Maybe I'm just another game to him, she thought. Tears streamed hot over the photos in her hands. As the night went on, two truths unfolded in parallel. Nathan, for the first time, longed for someone beyond power. Clara, in turn, felt the sting of a possible betrayal. Two hearts drawn together, but split apart by secrets. And in the silence of their separate worlds, both ached, unaware that this was only the beginning of the real conflict. The love that had begun would be tested like never before. The next morning brought a gray sky over the small city. Clara woke up late, her eyes still wet from the night before. The photos of Nathan with Victoria were scattered across the table. She tried to ignore them, but the pain kept pulling her back to that scene. Why did he affect her so deeply if there were such heavy secrets? Her heart craved answers, but reason demanded distance. And, for the first time, Clara wished she had never crossed his path. Meanwhile, Nathan started the day surrounded by reports and contracts. But numbers meant nothing compared to Clara's absence. His assistant spoke, but all Nathan saw was her timid smile in his mind. The memory of the garden, of the almost kiss, haunted him. Now, everything felt incomplete without her presence. "Why did you leave so quickly?" he muttered to himself, frustrated. He knew he had to find her, no matter the cost. Victoria, on the other hand, was already planning her next move. She knew Clara had received the photos, and that was only the beginning. With a venomous smile, she called a contact at the local press. "Prepare a special piece on Clara's life," she ordered coldly. "I want everyone to know where she came from and what she hides." Victoria refused to lose ground to someone so ordinary. For her, victory was only a matter of time. Clara tried to distract herself by helping her friend at the small neighborhood cafe. Serving tables and hearing customers laugh brought a fragile calm. But inside, she carried the weight of conflict. "Maybe I should forget it all," she thought, forcing a smile. Yet every gesture, every word from Nathan replayed in her mind. It was impossible to erase what he had awakened in her, and that contradiction only left her more confused. That afternoon, Nathan parked discreetly outside the cafe. He watched Clara from afar, smiling gently at her customers. His chest tightened with an emotion he couldn't name. "She doesn't belong to my world, yet she's my peace." He gathered courage and walked in, drawing everyone's attention. The place fell silent for a moment, stunned by his presence. And Clara froze at the sight of him, unsure whether to run or stay. "Can we talk?" Nathan asked, voice low but firm. Clara hesitated, sensing the curious stares of the customers. She took a deep breath and led him to a private table in the back. The silence between them was thick, almost tangible. Nathan spoke first, his eyes fixed on hers. "You disappeared last night. I can't stand the thought of driving you away." Clara swallowed hard, fighting back tears. "Maybe I shouldn't be here, Nathan," she replied coldly. He frowned, hearing the distance in her tone. "Why are you speaking to me like this? What happened?" Clara pulled the envelope from her bag and tossed it on the table. The photos slid before him like sharp blades. "Explain this. Who is she really to you?" Nathan stayed silent, his face stern and closed. Clara crossed her arms, forcing herself to stay firm. Inside, however, a storm of emotions suffocated her. Nathan drew in a long breath, picked up one of the photos, and stared at it. "Victoria was part of my past. I made the mistake of trusting her." His eyes hardened, though pain echoed in his voice. "She betrayed me in the worst way, and I swore never to get involved again." Clara listened, but her heart still resisted. Then, "Why do these pictures look so recent?" she pressed. Nathan leaned forward, locking eyes with her. "Because that's what she wants you to believe. Manipulation is her game." Clara bit her lip, her mind at war with itself. Part of her wanted to believe him, another screamed to run. "And why should I trust you?" she challenged. "Because I've never lied about how I feel when I'm with you." The silence stretched, neither daring to look away. Clara sensed he was telling the truth, but doubts lingered. Her world was too simple for so many tangled schemes. And yet, something inside her begged not to let go. Nathan reached out, brushing her hand softly. "Let me prove who I really am." Clara inhaled deeply but gave no reply. Nathan withdrew his hand, recognizing her hesitation. Wounded pride burned in his chest, but he wouldn't give up. "Clara, do you think it's easy for me to open these wounds?" His voice shook slightly, showing rare vulnerability. "I've hidden my pain for years, until you showed up." She turned her gaze away, struck by the weight of his words. It was hard to remain cold before such a confession. Clara twisted the napkin in her hands, nerves on edge. "Nathan, my life is complicated enough without all this." He leaned closer, firm but not aggressive. "I don't want to complicate your life. I want to be in it." The sincerity in his eyes left her breathless, but fear kept her rooted to the ground. And once again, silence settled between them. Suddenly, Clara's phone buzzed in her bag. She answered, only to hear a venomous voice. "You don't belong in this world, Clara. Step away before you regret it." It was Victoria, and Clara's blood ran cold. She hung up without replying, but panic showed on her face. Nathan noticed, locking his gaze on hers. "It was her, wasn't it?" he asked firmly. Clara nodded silently, feeling increasingly trapped. Nathan drew in a sharp breath, anger flashing in his eyes. "I won't let her destroy this between us." His words rang with dangerous conviction, but also protection. Clara, however, abruptly rose to her feet. "I don't know if I can handle this, Nathan." And she left the cafe, leaving him alone and frustrated. Outside, Clara hurried through the narrow streets. Her mind spun like a carousel of doubts and fears. The cold afternoon wind seemed to cut her skin. "Am I really strong enough for this?" she thought. She wanted to believe in Nathan, but the shadows loomed large. Each step felt like a desperate escape. And yet, something inside her refused to let him go. Nathan remained seated, unmoving, staring at the untouched cup. The coffee cooled, but his determination burned hotter. He couldn't lose Clara, not after everything he already felt. He had faced powerful enemies in the business world. But now, the hardest battle was in matters of the heart. "I'll protect her, even if she doesn't want me to," he muttered. And he rose, ready to act. Victoria, meanwhile, watched everything from afar. A black car parked at the corner served as her hiding spot. With a satisfied smile, she saw Clara walk away alone. "Perfect. The seed of doubt is already growing," she whispered. But deep down, she feared what Nathan might do. He wasn't an ordinary man. He always found solutions. And that made her uneasy, despite her confident facade. That night, Clara tried to sleep but couldn't. Each time she closed her eyes, Nathan's face appeared. The intensity in his gaze, the promise in his words. And alongside it, Victoria's. Threats echoed in her mind. She tossed and turned, torn between desire and fear, until she decided one thing. She needed direct answers. The next day, she would face Nathan. Across the city, Nathan also couldn't close his eyes. He sat in his office, going through files on Victoria. He had hired investigators to track her every move. "I need to expose her lies before she destroys Clara," he thought. The image of the young teacher drove him to keep going, even exhausted. It wasn't about pride anymore. It was about protecting her. For the first time, his empire wasn't the priority. The clock read nearly 3 a.m. when Nathan shut the files. Exhausted, he leaned back in the leather chair, but his heart stayed alert. He knew the next day would be decisive for them both. Clara searched for answers. He, for a chance to prove his truth. And Victoria, in the shadows, plotted her next strike. Destiny was about to quicken all their steps. And no one would leave unscathed from this emotional war. The morning began with Clara's phone buzzing nonstop. Anonymous messages, malicious headlines, poisoned comments. "Teacher hooks magnate to get ahead," one portal declared. She leaned against the sink in her modest kitchen, breathing deeply. Her stomach turned, but she straightened her shoulders. "I will not crumble over this," she repeated like a prayer. Even when the voice trembles, courage can remain. In the glass-walled office, Nathan led a tense meeting. Directors demanded an official statement about his personal life. "Contracts are fragile right now," Mr. Hale warned legal counsel. He looked out the window, where the city resembled a steel plate. "I don't negotiate my truth just to please headlines," he said quietly. "And if the board threatens, press a shareholder. Then they'll learn the line between profit and honor." Victoria watched the internal feed leaked by an informant. She adjusted her expensive bracelet and smiled, satisfied with the chaos. "He'll lose his temper, and the market makes. You pay dearly for that." She picked up her phone and dialed a veteran editor. "I've got exclusive audio about the teacher and the school. Lies fit together like the gears of a wicked clock. For her, the hour of their downfall already had hands. In Clara's neighborhood, cameras sprouted on street corners. Reporters waited for a single misplaced word. The school principal called, voice weary and concerned. "Clara, I must protect the institution. Please stay home today." Clara closed her eyes, stung by the unfairness. "I understand. I'll prepare online lessons for a few days." On the other end, silence, of someone suffering quietly too. Nathan received a dossier from his private investigator. Shell companies, transfers, contracts under Nextra Capital. At the center, Victoria's name in discreet lettering. "The attack on the teacher is part of the package. the agent explained. They want to rattle you on the outside to break you on the inside. Nathan clenched his fists, freezing his rage into focus. Then we'll shine light where she trusts the shadows. That afternoon, Clara organized papers in the silent classroom. No voices in the halls, no hurried footsteps. She opened her email and found a veiled threat. Stay away from Hale, or everyone will know your past. What past? She thought, staring her own story in the eye. Poverty is not a crime. Struggle was never shame. But someone wanted to turn it into a weapon against her. The phone rang again. It was the hospital about her father. The tests are back. We need to adjust his medication. Clara wrote down everything. Every milligram, every schedule. Real. Life never waits for headlines and intrigue. She took a deep breath, grabbed her bag, and headed to the clinic. At the door, flashes exploded like a storm of glass. Miss Hayes confirmed the romance with the magnate. She raised her hand, building a wall of courtesy. My priority right now is my family's health. Microphones pushed another inch, insistent. Clara turned away, stepped inside, and shut the door gently. In the hallway mirror, she saw her pale, yet steady face. I know who I am, she whispered to her reflection, and I won't be shaped by those who profit from noise. Nathan arrived later, discreet, without showy security. He carried reports and a protective silence with him. I came to check on your father, he said, keeping respectful distance. Clara nodded, tired but grateful for his presence. They're adjusting the medication. That's what matters now. Nathan set a folder on the corridor table. And this matters for us. Proof against Victoria. Clara opened it, page after page of numbers and names. The pieces formed a puzzle, clear and merciless. Can you take this to the press? She asked carefully. I can, but first, I want to shield you and the school. She crossed her arms, remembering the principal's call. They've already asked me to disappear for a while. He closed his eyes, swallowing lightning. I don't want it to look like I ran, Clara said. I want to stay where my life happens. Nathan breathed, adjusting his tone to respect. Then let's give you a voice, not a stage. There's a difference. She tilted her head, grasping the weight of the phrase. Voice is truth, stage is bait. She knew that well. How do we do it without turning into a spectacle? With precision, Nathan replied, opening a timeline. Written statement, independent audit, public protocol. No live interviews, no twisted edits, no arena, just sequenced, verifiable facts. Clara bit her lip, absorbing the technical plan. Ethical simplicity masked a robust architecture. Maybe they did share the same language after all. Clarity to be why the time they left the hospital, night had claimed the streets. Two photographers trailed them like circling hawks. Nathan noticed, changed direction, confused the corners. You shouldn't be this good at that, she remarked. I learned where dignity is most at risk, he replied flatly. She smiled despite herself, lightening the weight a little. Even danger respects those who don't lose their center. The next day, the principal called a private meeting. Clara, parents are nervous about all this attention. Clara listened, silently, hands resting on her notebook. I proposed a plan, transparent reports for the reading project. The principal seemed to release an old knot in her shoulders. If it's documented, I'll defend it at any council. And Clara understood. Truth is also administration. Frustrated with their strategic silence, Victoria shifted her attack. She leaked fabricated screenshots of edited conversations to columnists. In them, Clara appeared calculating and opportunistic. Websites published without checking, chasing trophies of clicks. Clara read the lies, nausea rising then passing. Afterward, she sat down to write her full statement. When mud is thrown, the answer is clean water. Nathan synchronized 3 moves at once: external audit, board notification, and criminal complaint. Legal counsel urged caution. He demanded responsible speed. Every empty hour is space for rumor, he declared. George, beside him, managed deadlines like a calm conductor. It'll hurt, but it'll hurt the right people. And the city, unaware, awaited the rhythm of justice. That afternoon, Clara's father had a minor setback. Low fever, dosage adjustment, absolute rest. She ran her hand through his hair, an old gesture. Don't worry, Dad. I'll handle things, you just rest. In the hallway, Nathan waited, respecting her privacy. She came out and met his steady gaze and anchor. "Thank you for staying without intruding," she said sincerely. He handed her a plain envelope with no logo. "It's the preliminary report from the independent auditors." Clara read the first objective confirmations. No cross donations, no diversions, no personal gain. "This clears the project and everyone involved," Nathan explained. She nodded, her breathing finally a little deeper. "Then let's publish it, with method, without resentment." Hours later, the material went live on their own platform. Documents, timelines, signatures, technical notes. No adjectives, no spectacle, only clear trails. Slowly, stubbornly, the comments began to shift tone. "If this is true, half the narrative collapses," one wrote. Victoria hurled a glass against her marble wall. "They want a war of facts? I'll give them smoke." That night, Clara received the call she never expected. "We found a bug in your apartment," said the investigator. The world spun, then, sharpened into terrifying clarity. Nathan asked for the address and left without checking the clock. On the other end, a door slammed, broken open. "Clara, don't let anyone in. I'm on my way now." And the darkness in the hallway seemed to hold its breath. The night was heavy when Nathan arrived at Clara's building. Two technicians in uniform were already pulling wires from the wall. "The device was well hidden, Mr. Hale," one of them reported. Clara stood with her arms crossed, trying to keep her gaze steady. "So it wasn't paranoia, someone really wanted to monitor me." Nathan placed a firm, protective hand on her shoulder. "And we already know who that someone is." Deep down, a chill ran down Clara's spine. The invasion wasn't just against her, it was against her very essence. Her home had been the last refuge where she could breathe unmasked. Now even there, they had tried to plant seeds of distrust. "They won't steal my silence, nor my peace," she whispered. Nathan watched her, surprised by the strength in her voice. There was a resilience in this woman few could carry. The next morning, the city woke up to another scandal. Hidden bug found in teacher Hayes' apartment. Sensationalist outlets turned the crime into immediate spectacle. Some hinted it was her ploy for attention. Others painted her as a martyr in an unfair war. Clara turned off her phone and left it on the table. She refused to live at the pace of poisonous noise. A.T. Hale Corporation headquarters. Directors demanded answers. "If Victoria is behind this, we'll need undeniable proof." Nathan slammed the report on the table, solid as steel. "We already have it. Confirmed audit, cross-checked recordings, ready witnesses." A heavy silence filled the boardroom. The shareholders exchanged looks, sensing the weight of the choice. It was time to expose the truth, with no turning back. Clara returned to school after days away, hesitant. As she stepped through the gates, divided eyes followed her. Some teachers hugged her discreetly, others looked away. The children ran, smiling, begging for stories and attention. "I missed you, Miss Clara," a little girl shouted. Her heart melted amid the pressure. Here was the true reason she kept fighting. During recess, a disguised journalist tried to slip inside. Clara rushed to the door, blocking his way. "This is a place for learning, not a circus for headlines." The principal stepped in firmly, demanding respect for the school. The reporter backed away, but left a veiled threat. "The truth always leaks, teacher," he said with disdain. Clara met his eyes with a stare that didn't waver. That afternoon, Nathan picked her up quietly by car. "I need to show you something important," he said, opening a folder. Photos, contracts, and testimonies were laid out in perfect order. Victoria had laundered funds, bribed media outlets, and more. "This is bigger than a personal attack, Clara," he explained. "It's an entire network of power and lies." Clara swallowed hard. Grasping the size of the game as she flipped through the documents, his hand brushed close. For a moment, she forgot the chaos and lost herself in his gaze. Nathan noticed but pulled back, afraid of moving too soon. "What do you feel right now?" he asked softly. Clara closed the folder, breathing deeply before answering. "I feel fear, but not of you, of what surrounds us." He nodded, respecting her limit without giving up on the bond. Meanwhile, Victoria met with a circle of powerful lawyers. "They won't dare expose me publicly," she declared confidently. One of the men adjusted his glasses, uneasy at her tone. "If documented evidence surfaces, it'll be hard to protect you." She slammed her hand on the glass table, making it ring. "Then buy me the time I need. I'll handle the rest." Her eyes burned with the fury of someone who never retreats. Back at Clara's home, her father showed slight improvement. He asked for you, Clara, the nurse said warmly. She adjusted his pillows and stroked his hand gently. I'm here, Dad. I'll always be here. Nathan, seated quietly in the background, watched the scene. In that instant, he realized how much he admired her courage. It wasn't the fight against Victoria that moved him most. It was Clara's resilient light in her darkest hours. The way she cared for her father without applause. Her resolve to protect children instead of chasing fame. She was unlike anyone he had ever known before, and that scared him as much as it drew him closer. Clara, you deserve more than this war, he said softly. She smiled faintly, weary but certain. I deserve truth. The next day, Nathan called a strategic press conference. It wasn't a show, but a presentation of documented proof. The media gathered, hungry for the next spark. Clara hesitated to attend, but he reassured her. You don't have to say a word. Just stand beside me. She nodded, still uneasy before the swarm of cameras. But as she walked in, she felt the strength of his support. The images on the screen spoke for themselves. Illegal transfers, forged contracts, testimonies from key witnesses. The murmur of reporters turned into a chorus of shock. This changes everything, whispered a veteran journalist. Nathan remained composed, explaining each technical detail. Clara, beside him, held a serene, steady posture. For the first time, the narrative began to turn. Victoria watched from her luxurious penthouse on TV. A glass of wine trembled in her jeweled hand. They dared. They actually dared. She called a contact in the prosecutor's office, voice sharp. Shut this down immediately, but the reply was cold and impersonal. Consistent evidence has already been filed. Nothing to be done now. Outside the conference, Clara was swarmed by microphones. Miss Hayes, are you a victim or an accomplice? She breathed deeply, gripping Nathan's hand firmly. I'm not a victim or an accomplice. I'm someone who refuses to be used. The silence that followed was heavy and intense. One simple sentence had disarmed dozens of questions. The reporters recorded it, but none dared twist her words. In the car, on the way home, Clara trembled silently. Nathan noticed and offered his hand without words. She accepted, gripping it like an anchor. You were incredible in there, he told her softly. No, I was just myself, she replied. He smiled, admiring the clarity she radiated. This ordinary woman was, in truth, extraordinary. That night, heavy rain poured over the city. Clara gazed out the window, watching drops draw trails. Nathan came closer, carrying 2 mugs of hot tea. I thought millionaires only served expensive whiskey, she teased. He laughed, letting rare humanity show through. I've learned that human warmth is worth more than crystal. Her laughter softened the weight of the storm. Suddenly, Nathan's phone vibrated insistently. George, his assistant, spoke quickly on the other end. We have new intel. Victoria won't wait for trial. Nathan's expression darkened as he paced the room. Be clear, George. What is she planning? The answer dropped like lead. She's hired someone to attack Clara physically. The air seemed to freeze around them. Clara gripped her cup, nearly spilling the tea. So it wasn't just slander, she wants real destruction. Nathan placed his hand firmly over hers. I won't let anyone lay a hand on you. Clara met his gaze, eyes teary yet brave. I don't want to live in fear, Nathan. I want to live free. He stepped closer, emotion unhidden in his eyes. And I'll make sure of that, no matter the cost. Outside, thunder roared, lighting the room in flashes. Clara felt danger pressing closer than ever, but also that she was no longer alone in the fight. Destiny now bound courage and protection together, and the battle against Victoria had entered its most dangerous stage. In the morning, Nathan reinforced Clara's building with a discreet team. No armed guards on display, only watchful eyes in the lobby. I want protection, not a spectacle, he told the head of security. Clara crossed her arms. I won't. Live escorted like a convict. It's temporary, Nathan insisted, voice low, firm, careful. She took a deep breath, yielding a step, but not her dignity. Fear did not define her. Prudence did. George mapped alternative routes for daily routines. Side entrances, shifted schedules, unmarked cars. It's logistics of silence, he explained, showing the plan on his tablet. Clara listened, evaluated, pointed out flaws with a teacher's clarity. It works, as long as it doesn't pull me out of school, she warned. Nathan agreed. You'll keep teaching, we'll keep protecting. This war demanded method, not bravado. Across town, a man received a brown envelope. Photos of Clara. Her schedule, a red arrow, 6 p.m. window. No marks, no blood, just intimidation, said the voice on the phone. He nodded, counting money with cold, impatient fingers. If she doesn't back down, we raise the pressure, came the order. The man packed the dull weapon of fear, plastic ties, and a hood. The night already had a target and a clock. Nearly 6 o'clock, Clara exited through a side door. The wind carried the smell of rain. The sky promised thunder. She clutched the folder of evidence as though it were a heart. A dark car slowed. On the opposite side of the street, Clara ducked into a stationery shop, buying pens she didn't need. The mirrors along the aisle reflected shadows that bought nothing. She quickened her pace, calling for a rideshare. The driver canceled. Another 2. High demand, read the screen. Clara steadied herself, leaned on the counter, pretended to call someone. I'm almost there. Wait for me at the entrance. She said aloud, strategically. The dark car circled the block, persistent as an addiction. She decided to cut through the alley beside the cafe. Footsteps followed, metal scraping concrete, the air turning tight. Her pulse raced, but her mind stayed sharp. A van slid open with a harsh metallic snap. A hooded figure emerged, a rough voice. We just want to talk, teacher. Clara pivoted, keeping distance, eyes fixed on his fists. Conversations have faces, names, and light. She retorted, steady, unshaken. His hand lunged. She stepped back with practiced precision. Key between her fingers, spray in her bag, back against the wall. She was no prey. She was a conscious target. The hood tried to grab the folder. Clara twisted her body and blocked. Spray shot into the void. He shielded with his forearm. Another figure jumped from the van, doubling the threat. She unleashed. The whistle on her keychain, shrill sound cutting the alley. Windows lit up, time changed texture. Clara bolted toward the nearest street lamp, instinct for survival. Behind her, uneven steps, ragged breaths. Headlights burst into the alley like a metallic sun. Nathan's sedan skidded sideways, blocking the van's escape. He leapt out before the car stopped, posture like steel. Drop it. His voice didn't ask, it commanded. The hood faltered. The other raised a short pipe. Nathan placed his body between Clara and the blunt object. The entire street heard the silence before impact. The blow came at an angle. Nathan absorbed it with his forearm. Pain flashed white, but he didn't retreat an inch. Call now, he shouted to Clara, eyes never leaving the men. She dialed 911, fingers steady though trembling inside. A distant siren answered like a promised return. The pipe-wielding thug hesitated. The other yanked Clara's bag strap. She let the strap go, but not the folder. Tires screeched on the main road. Neighbors raised cell phones. The van tried to reverse, but Nathan's sedan blocked its angle. The attackers stumbled back, their plan unraveling. Clara and Nathan moved together toward the lit avenue. The siren was no longer distant. It was present, slicing the air. One man escaped. The other lost his hood in the scramble. Cameras caught his face, his tattoo, his direction to the clinic. Ice on his arm. A quick exam, pulse intact. Severe contusion, no fracture. The doctor said, brisk but kind. Clara sat beside him, gripping the folder like it was tomorrow itself. This won't break you, she whispered, almost a prayer. Nathan smiled faintly, pain and tenderness sharing space. You didn't let go of the folder, he teased, easing the air. I held on to our story, she corrected, unsmiling. George arrived with an update. Clone plates, face identified. Tied to a Nexera contract, he reported, clipped and precise. Nathan nodded, piecing the trail with surgical focus. Criminal charges, urgent injunction, expanded protective measures. Clara raised her hand. Not hiding me. Make it transparent. He looked at her as a student, agreed as a man of respect. Not hidden, strategic, he sealed, shifting. The preposition. Nathan's phone buzzed. An emergency board meeting. They're voting your suspension, Mr. Hale, a tense voice warned. Victoria maneuvered both inside and beyond glass walls. Clara rested the folder on her lap, holding his gaze. "Go. Strip away the last stage she has," she said, calm and firm. He tried to protest. She shook her head serenely. "I'll be fine. Now it's you who needs to step into the light." Boardroom, oval table, eyes of calculation and caution. Victoria wasn't there, but her perfume of influence was. A director read reputational concerns in a performative tone. Nathan projected the audit, the press conference, the alley attack. "Reputation is measured by facts when they're hardest to find," he concluded. Noise, then silence, then uncomfortable nods. The vote was marked with sweaty hands. Meanwhile, Clara filed her police report at the station. Signature steady. Testimony stripped of adjectives. Chronology as ruler. The clerk looked up. "Do you want it under full seal?" "I want what protects without erasing the truth," she answered. He nodded, impressed by the precision of her clarity. "Then it'll be this way. Enough light, data shielded." Clara walked out with a copy like one leaves with a map. Vote 1. Suspend Nathan. Vote 2. Oppose. The tally swung like a pendulum. Over polished abyss. George arrived with a folder. Independent legal opinion. Financial fallout of unjustified suspension, read a director aloud. Columns changed color in every investor's mind. "You don't burn a bridge in the middle of a river," someone muttered. The pendulum slowed, bearing the weight of reality by a narrow margin. Suspension fell to reason's floor. Nathan remained CEO, but under doubled scrutiny. He exhaled, like a man surfacing from deep water. Full transparency, external committee, public calendar, he proposed. They agreed, without enthusiasm, but without smarter choice. In the hallway, George allowed a short smile. "We bought time, not victory," Nathan replied. "Time is the right weapon in the right hands." On the sidewalk, a court officer sought Victoria, handed her a subpoena with hands that didn't shake. Short deadline, broad documents, hearing set. Victoria tucked the paper as though tucking away an insult. "I choose the battlefield," she hissed to herself. But for the first time, a crack of fear split her polish. The clock now ticked against her at Clara's apartment. Night fell heavier than usual. A power outage darkened 3 entire blocks. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number, short message, final warning. She locked chains, shut windows, checked the dark hallway. Light footsteps from a neighbor, then nothing, then a distant click. Clara leaned on the wall, her heart saying, "Stay." Her head moved. She grabbed the folder, her bag. Her courage point 3 sharp knocks on the door. No bell, no voice. "Police," finally said a firm tone, showing ID through the crack. The suspect was released on bail, immediate risk. "We need to remove you now and take you somewhere safe." Clara looked at her home, her father's photo, her routine mural. She breathed, unlocked the chains, met the officer's eyes. "I'll go, but I'm taking everything that is truth with me." Dawn found Clara in the safe house, bare walls and quiet air. She opened the narrow curtain and let the sun touch her resolute face. The folder rested on the table like a guard to an unyielding portal. Fear and courage breathed inside her in alternating turns. "Today the truth walks with me," she murmured, tying her hair back. She wrote 3 lines in a notebook: focus, method, serenity, and stepped out carrying paper, proof, and purpose in the same stride. Nathan adjusted his jacket backstage. In the crowded auditorium, microphones tested, slides aligned, cameras hungry for noise. "No spectacle, only a sequence of facts," he told George. His arm still ached, a raw memory of the dark alley. But pain had become his compass. No one would touch Clara again. He drew a deep breath, recalled the garden, the almost kiss, and walked to the podium as if crossing into an oath. In her penthouse, Victoria rehearsed a porcelain smile. "He won't dare expose me," she repeated to the mirror. An aide listed friendly columns, rehearsed headlines, smoke screens. Still, the trembling lipstick betrayed microfractures in her pose. She pinned her hair back with elegant rage and made another call. If they push, trigger the legal standby immediately. But even her own voice sounded cornered by facts. Clara entered the auditorium as flashes searched for an anchor. In jeans, a light blouse, and steady gaze, she carried the folder. The murmurs shifted register, tense curiosity, restrained respect. Nathan saw her, and the world shrank to the distance between them. She climbed the 3 steps as if climbing into herself. "Thank you for coming," he whispered without a mic, only for her. "Thank you for believing," she replied, setting the folder on the desk. Nathan opened the press conference with a steady, unembellished voice. "Today I present a timeline, documents, and independent validations." He clicked the first slide, dates, stamps, cross-checked signatures. The second, external audits, technical reports, chain of custody. The auditorium fell silent like a classroom of focused students. "I ask that you follow through to the end before questions." Then he called Clara to the microphone with a gesture of trust. Clara inhaled, placed the folder down, and pulled out numbered envelopes. Protocol A, transfers. Protocol B, contracts. Protocol C, emails. Each sheet bore origin, destination, and cross-verification. On the screen, arrows connected funds to shell companies. Nexera appeared at the center like the knot of a clandestine web. Victoria surfaced in internal notes with indirect authorizations, and reporters scribbled furiously, unable to blink. "I saw. I kept. I brought this," Clara said, unshaken. "Not to destroy people, but to liberate the truth." She showed the bugging report, the police filing, the independent forensic test. She showed the school's statement, projects with no cross-donations. And she showed a letter from parents endorsing transparency and protection. "Don't mistake me for a stage. I choose voice." The phrase hung in the air like a resonant bell. The side door opened and Victoria entered, flanked by lawyers. "Cheap fabrication," she spat, trying to poison the atmosphere. Nathan stayed motionless, steel-eyed, advancing to the next slide. There appeared bank seals, IPs, stamps, and metadata. A prosecutor in the audience raised his phone with an official order. "Evidence received and filed at 8:17, he read aloud. The murmur swelled into a tide that drowned her improvisation. Questions. Fired, but now they carried different weight. Is there independent forensics on every piece of evidence? 3 separate ones, Nathan replied, citing institutions. Was there an economic motive for targeting the teacher? Clara laid out the chronology, no adjectives, only rulers and dates. And what about security? Someone asked from the back row. Measures are ongoing. Without spectacle, with public reports. On the screen, one final graphic tied all loose ends. Money, media, pressure, physical threat, boardroom votes. We don't topple reputations, we raise the standard. Of proof, Nathan said. He thanked technical teams and the school for their cooperation. Contained applause broke out like rain on hot tiles. Victoria tried to slip out the back, but met officers at the ramp. She was served summons, deadlines, obligations, and a new silence. The press conference ended without poses, only tired, honest hands. Clara stepped down from the stage, knees suddenly light. Parents approached with discreet hugs and notes of gratitude. Thank you for still being a teacher, one mother said, moved. Nathan watched the scene and sealed it in his heart. There was the reason he hadn't retreated. There was the woman who turned struggle into meaning. Outside, the sky tore open with a shaft of light. George handed Nathan a digest of balanced headlines. No euphoria, but respect for the facts, he reported, satisfied. It's the right beginning, Nathan replied, glancing at Clara. I want to take you out of here and give you peace back. She nodded, her body craving rest and shelter. They left in good silence, the kind that feels like home. At the apartment, the power had already returned to the lamps. Clara lit only the one over the counter, warm, end-of-day glow. She slipped off her shoes, stored the folder, washed her face. Nathan boiled water, pulled out 2 mugs and a jar of honey. Chamomile tea with a promise of peace, he smiled faintly. She chuckled softly, surprised by the simplicity that fit there. Peace, after all, resided in gestures that asked for. No headlines. They sat on the rug, backs against the base of the sofa. The mugs warmed their palms. Silence warmed the rest. Clara looked out the window and saw the neighborhood breathe again. I don't want to live with bodyguards in my soul, she confided. I don't want to lose you to any scare, he returned. Then we walk without an audience, but with a plan, she concluded. And they agreed without needing to underline the words. Nathan touched the bandage on his arm. I'm not invincible, Clara. I was just stubborn for you. Good stubbornness, The kind that protects without imprisoning me, she said. He looked away, as if afraid of saying too much. I was scared in that alley, he confessed, unarmored. So was I, she admitted, leaning her forehead to his. Fears spoken lose their teeth. They become mere alerts. He touched her hand, like asking permission. May I stay tonight? Not for danger, but for peace. Clara smiled in a way he'd never forget. Stay? Peace works better with two people. The kiss came gentle, then deep, then tender again. No rush, no debt, no proof to display. Only the exact truth of two choosing to remain. Later, they cooked pasta with simple basil sauce. Laughed at the pan that hissed for no reason. He minced garlic with the care of holding secrets. She stirred the sauce like writing possible endings. At the small table, 2 plates, 2 forks, 2 stories. This is how I want to remember today, Clara said. No shouts, no spotlights, just the smell of home. On the sofa, he spoke of the future like drawing maps. Full transparency. At the company, permanent external oversight. And at school, quarterly public reports, she added. They planned routes, limits, days of rest, and exit strategies. Laughed, calling it a romance with governance. Love is also a daily choice of fair processes, she said. And I choose ours every day, he sealed. That night, they danced without music in the middle of the room. The wind slipped through the window, turning curtains into sea. Thank you for not giving up when it was easy to, she said. Thank you for reminding me who I am when I doubted, he said. Fear stayed outside, knocking without entry. Inside, there was a possible tomorrow, clear and kind. And there was a present, whole, without lack, without warning. Asterisk if this story touched you. Let your heart speak in the comments. Tell me where it found you. Share it with someone who needs courage. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the bell to keep following. Here, every week brings a full dose of romance, truth, and hope. Your participation sustains this community and inspires new stories. Right? I choose the truth, so I'll know you stayed until the end. And come back tomorrow. Love continues when we choose to stay.